China are bad, Russia are bad, Trump is bad. The line between good and bad is a clear one. On one side, you've got Trump and Russia and all of that. On the other side, you've got the Biden administration and the Democrats. So why are they selling more weapons to corrupt autocratic regimes than ever before in history? Because wouldn't that be bad? Since President Joe Biden came into office in 2021, he has described the battle between democracies and autocracies in which the US and other democracies strive to create a peaceful world. The reality, however, is that the Biden administration has helped increase the military power of a large number of authoritarian countries. So he's saying one thing, but he's actually making it worse. We've got to do something about all these armed countries. Well, here's a suggestion. Stop selling them fucking weapons. According to an Intercept review of recently released government data, the US sold weapons to at least 57% of the world's autocratic countries in 2022. So how bad do they think they are? If you think a country's bad and dangerous, maybe don't sell it weapons? I don't know, let me know in the chat. Since the end of the Cold War, the United States has been the world's biggest weapons dealer. So, like, when you're looking at why have these countries got weapons, what's making them so dangerous, what's making them so difficult to oppose? Well, it's the fact that they're heavily armed and militarily capable. How did they become militarily capable? We made them militarily capable through the sale of weapons that are required to sustain our economy. Either tell people that or shut up, but don't sort of sell them the weapons and go, oh no, what are we going to do about these countries? They've got weapons.
Iraq, incredible weapons. Incredible weapons. How do you know that? We looked at the receipt.
So are you, like me, curious about how these weapon sales actually happen? Is it like that they go over there and do conferences or put on presentations, or are the US government directly involved in weapon sales? The answer is they're directly involved. Listen to how it actually works. In general, these exports are funded through grants or sales. There are two pathways for the latter category: foreign military sales and direct commercial sales. The US government acts as an intermediary for FMS, foreign military sales acquisitions. It buys the material from a company first and then delivers the goods to the foreign recipient. Direct commercial sales acquisitions are more straightforward. They're the result of an agreement between a US company and a foreign government. Both categories of sales require the government's approval. So, if they truly wanted to impede the abilities of these terrible autocracies to wreak havoc on the world and their own populations, oh no, not another humanitarian crisis, they could not deliver the weapons like an explosive uranium pizza. A total of 142 countries and territories bought weapons from the US in 2022 for a total of $85 billion in bilateral sales. Of the 84 countries codified as autocracies under the regimes of the world system in 2022, the United States sold weapons to at least 48 or 57% of them. The at least qualifier is necessary because several factors frustrate the accurate tracking of US weapons sales. The State Department's report of commercial arms sales during the fiscal year makes prodigious use of various in its recipients categories. As a result, the specific recipients for nearly $11 billion in weapons sales are not disclosed. We sold weapons to various people. Were any of them autocracies? I don't know. Does an autocracy fit under the word various? Yeah, I suppose it does. Well, there's your answer then. These findings contradict Biden's preferred framing of international politics as fundamentally a struggle in which the world's democracies led by the United States are on the side of peace and security. Yeah, contradict it because it's a lie and it's untrue, and if you include facts in the analysis or framing, that you can't keep that. We are here to keep peace and security for democracies around the world. If you're doing that, why do you keep selling weapons to countries that by your own reckoning are bad? Could we have a question that I've been given in advance, please? Because that's fucking confusing. Opposing the United States and its democratic allies are the autocracies that collude to undermine the international system, Biden has stated. Who's really doing this colluding though? Is it those damned autocracies? Or is there real collusion between the military-industrial complex and the government who are selling and delivering and signing off arms sales to countries that by their own reckoning and analysis are a threat? Where's the real collusion? These goddamn autocracies clubbing together all their money to buy some weapons and missiles from me. I like those autocracies. In a speech in Warsaw last year, he said the battle between democracy and autocracy is one between liberty and repression. And they always try to simplify everything. We are liberty, they are repression. They are the customer, you are the sales clerk. And between a rules-based international order and one governed by brute force. They use deep archetypal languages and images that belie the inability of the dominant state to own its own bad side or dark side or shadow. Instead of saying we have brutality within us, that's why there are all these unnecessary wars and lies that lead to wars and profitable wars and unnecessary wars and illegal wars and ongoing perpetual botched wars. Instead of saying that, they have to go, there's these baddies and we have to control them somehow. somehow. Firstly, by selling them weapons, and then by going to war with them to make sure they don't misuse those weapons. It's a brilliant system, really. The White House's 2022 National Security Strategy adds, the most pressing strategic challenge facing our vision is from powers that lay authoritarian governance with a revisionist foreign policy. What's being revised is what the words liberty and repression mean, because liberty is meant to mean leave people alone, and repression means controlling things, like all the censorship and surveillance and control of information. Stand up on the stage claiming that you care about your grandchildren when your policies are designed to arm the world in order to maintain the profitability of the military-industrial complex. Isn't that the problem? I don't know. Do you tell me? Despite that rhetoric, a review of the new data suggests instead a business-as-usual approach to weapons sales, which, by the way, is the wrong way. Oh, well, business as usual. Weapons for everyone. Should we be doing this? Former President Donald Trump based his arms sale policy primarily on economic considerations, corporate interests above all else. In his first foreign trip as president, he travelled to Saudi Arabia and announced a major arms deal with the repressive kingdom. Trump's business-first approach resulted in a dramatic upturn in weapons sales during his administration. So there you go, that's what Trump was doing. Why are them all scratching their heads about, well, why do people like Donald Trump? Russia must have somehow been involved, even though we know they definitely weren't. When it's appealing to have someone go, gotta go to Saudi Arabia, business first, gotta sell them weapons. At least you go, oh, all right, thanks. I mean, it's still bad, it's still wrong, it's still not ideal, is it? But the alternative to that is not, well, we're not going to sell weapons to Saudi Arabia. The alternative is we're going to say that we're not going to sell weapons to Saudi Arabia, then sell weapons to Saudi Arabia, then claim that we're the goodies and we're part of the solution and Saudi Arabia and other countries are bad and we're protecting you.
Are we the baddies?
Can you not see how that's less appealing than someone going, it's just business, we've just got to do that? In Biden's first fiscal year as president, weapons sales from the United States to other countries reached $206 billion. Biden's first year total surpasses the Trump-era high of $192 billion. This should trouble you, because these are actual numbers, right? And numbers don't lie. Donald Trump, $192 billion, while saying, yeah, it's business as usual, we've got to do it. Biden, oh, they're a pariah, we're never going to do it. In the first fiscal year, exceeded what Trump had done, while telling you that we're much better, we're much kinder, much more progressive, much more on top of it. How can that be your ideology? How can that be the mountain upon which you stand condemning, oh, these MAGA voters, they're idiots, they're racist idiots. No, what they are is they've intuited and understood that you're lying and that the only difference is a kind of vanity around discourse. Imagine the orgy of foaming, orgasmic fluid that would be expended if they were able to go, Trump sold so many more, we've curtailed it, we've reduced the weapons. They can't say that because it's simply not true. Empty, pious rhetoric. Remember, I do not think that the Republican Party or Donald Trump or any of that is any better. I'm not like, and that's why you should all vote for Donald Trump. That's not my argument. Don't do that either. Don't do that either. But definitely don't trust these idiots. The multi-billion-dollar effort to train and equip Ukraine doesn't fully explain the dramatic rise in total arms sales last year, let alone to autocracies. Russia's invasion of Ukraine didn't occur until 5 months into fiscal year 2022. Even without the Ukrainian war, we were doing great. But add to that a war that could be peacefully resolved, and you've got a real business opportunity. Rather, the new figures reveal the continuity between Republican and Democratic administrations. While Biden signaled early on that his arms sale policy would be based primarily on strategic and human rights considerations, not just economic interests, he broke from that policy not too long after entering office by approving weapons sales to Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and other authoritarian regimes. But it's not just selling arms to countries that you said you wouldn't, pretending that you're better than Trump when in fact you're worse than Trump by the metric that you consider to represent those ideas of good and bad. It's also providing military personnel. It's no use just giving them a bunch of weapons if they haven't got military personnel that know how to strategically use them. Let's make sure there's a revolving door between the Pentagon and these autocratic countries to ensure these weapons are used expediently. More than 500 retired US military personnel, including scores of generals and admirals, have taken lucrative jobs since 2015 working for foreign governments, mostly in countries known for human rights abuses and political repression. Most of the retired US personnel have worked as civilian contractors for Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and other Persian Gulf monarchies, playing a critical, though largely invisible, role in upgrading their militaries. That's interesting. All the while, the Gulf countries' security forces have continued to commit human rights abuses at home and beyond their borders. Wait a minute, who fired that missile so brilliantly? You might think, What business is it of the government? This is free market economics. Actually, there is some regulation there to ensure that highly trained military personnel don't go and work for potential enemies. So they have to be signed off and approved by the government. So they're probably quite circumspect. Wait a minute, that's an autocratic place. Wait a minute, they're potential enemies. Wait a minute, it's our job to ensure democracy wins. So no, at least what? 70% of the time, 80% of the time, they're vetoing it? Of the more than 500 requests submitted since 2015, about 95% were granted. To keep the wheels turning of this military industrial complex machine, you need lobbyists that know where the sweet spot are.